5:04, I'll be in order. Roll call, Craig and Abby, Rachel here, Jeff Hamilton
Here.
and Michael Bruce.
Present.
All right. Second thing on the agenda is public comment. Anybody have anything?
Nothing.
Okay, then moving on to approval of agenda. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda from last meeting.
Second.
And Jeff seconds. Voice vote? Aye. These have it. All right, approval of utility board meeting minutes from. Is this the same thing?
This is the minutes from
The minutes from the last meeting, yes, the May 21st of 2024.
Motion.
Get a look at it.
Second.
And voice vote?
Aye.
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 Okay. Moving on to financial. Consideration to the approve the bills payable. Does anybody have any questions about anything this time around?
It is, so Ashley, one of our clerks in the office has been looking into that. She's getting the history on the service calls and the reports for, any repairs that were done. Since we have a lease with them, we don't pay for those, so we couldn't log it, find it in our system as easily as we thought we could. So they are going to go back and try and get that history for us, and then bring that forward.
When is the lease up? And I had a question too on anything that has an auto renewal on it, if we can find that out, and I want to be aware of that before we auto renew things. If that's okay for everybody else.
Yeah, this one is an auto renewal, I believe. It looks like, in 2014 was the original lease. And I believe it's just annual. I'll confirm that, but that's my understanding of it.
And then has anybody else within the office, gotten quotes or anything? Because otherwise I'll go ahead and reach out to.
I don't think she has yet put that, in the note that she was going to look into, but I think she was starting with the history and service repair on this
Okay.
lease, and then we'll see what options we have for vendors as well.
Okay.
If you know of any vendors that you want us to check with, let us know. We can reach out to them.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Second.
Voice vote?
Aye.
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 And, second part of this is the discussion on the payment for the professional services rendered March 1st, 2024 through April 30th, 2024 by the law firm Dickinson, Bradshaw, Fowler and Hagen, PC.
I would like to table that at this time. I'd recommend if we approve any, it would be for the EIN. The other information, I know we've requested that in my personal, as I've said, they're detailed. It says who asked for what, who was requested by, what dates or stuff were printed out. We don't have any of that information.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need some additional clarification and when the previous board approved, and let's try to get, some better clarity on and definition of some of these charges incurred. What was EIN, what was for other items and requested by whom, so.
And did the last board know exactly what they were voting on?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean,
There was a scope of work.
right, there were some good people on the last board, but if you would tie it all into the ENI numbers, you maybe not know what you were voting on.
Correct.
So we need, the law firm needs to break it down
what?
I agree.
We haven't seen the May bill come in yet either. Have we?
I have not received anything,
Big.
from them.
Because one other concern is Brock Krager, as we know, has talked with this law firm. And during the month of May, he wouldn't have been able to have conversations. They should have been inquiring cost for that if we are being charged.
So I believe they sent the invoices to Craig, and so they would probably send them to him, unless he directed them to send somewhere else. So, and then he hasn't received them yet. I think that's where we would be looking. Nothing's been received yet by the city. I did receive your voicemail today, so I'm looking into those questions.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't have a response back.
What are we looking at for, total due right now?
I think it's around $37,000 roughly.
Which is a lot of money.
It's a lot of,
And a lot of it goes towards some
Yeah.
defending a couple of the board members, and we don't have a clear definition, justification of what was done.
What, what work was approved?
There was two things voted on by the board. That was the EAN number. And to represent utility board in Brock on the residents.
And correct me if I'm wrong,
That's it.
we have three, what was that? I had that come in. There's 3 bills for sure, invoices for separate things, EIN. The dispute on that, and I believe Brock's one is a separate one, and that's one of the higher ones.
And that's what I want to better understand. Was this voted on and approved? And if so, well, so be it. But, you know, I think,
we just need to go back through the minutes and look at the timeline and make sure, and what they were doing is what they were hired to actually do.
The other thing I would address too, because it's significant enough, is that first night that law firm showed up. They said that they were in the area. And
They're
that's
from
why-
Des Moines.
Right, well, the attorney had stated during that, and it's recorded, that she happened to be in the area, that's why she stopped by the first night. Yet on that first invoice from that law firm, she charged both ways to Des Moines and back. So if she was in the area, then why was there a charge for both?
Yeah, there's just a lot of things I think we need to pick through if, somebody want to make a motion to table.
Motion came. Until we choose to get a better understanding of exactly what took place and go from there.
Okay, I second that. And voice vote. Aye. Alright, moving on. Department update.
I'm not sure if we communicated it out. I know we got numbers. Sadie looked up what was being sent out by email versus what was being printed and mailed for the utility billing. So there's currently about 815 a month that go out by email and about 2,500 that are printed and mailed out. Lenny with ISG is going to be coming to your July 2nd board meeting. He's going to give you an update and present the details of the reconditioning project for the water tower, the one that's up by the community center. They're going to plan to do that in the spring of 2025. They were between the fall and the spring, but with the transitions and everything, it makes most sense to push it out to the spring so that we can make sure we've got the full time period that we need, that we know the project plan, the timeline, so that we can safely complete that project. So he'll be here to present that project and answer any questions that you might have.
you don't have a scope of work
Yep.
with them, so we can
Yes.
see exactly, okay.
Yep, and we've got that. I can send out what we've got ahead of time for you to review.
Okay.
That contract was awarded earlier in 2024. After there was a presentation, I believe, by Shive and ISG and then ISG for this project. We did offer a job in the water department, pending the acceptance and notification for that job offer. That employee would be starting on June 17th. And is ready to test at level 2 for certification and treatment, to get certified in treatment and distribution for water. And would also be ready to test at level 3, which is above and beyond what we need to be able to operate in compliance. So that's good news for us. We are still looking at hiring a lineman. We have someone that Colin's going to be speaking to that would come in at the apprentice level. And then we would hold that other vacancy that's currently open for a journeyman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so the electrical department, how about outages? All jokes aside.
Yeah,
None before tonight, since the last meeting, so no outages to report. Don't believe there were any department updates from Colin either.
and the last update we had here at the city is Mid-America forecasted early this evening, I guess, is.
Between 5:30, 6:30.
I just got another message, 5:30 is what they're predicting.
Okay. Right, did that go out, when we get an update from Mid-American, do we put that out on to the city page so that way people can?
Yeah, we have, I think it's called Red Alert. Alert Iowa. Ours comes for my email is something, that might be getting pushed up from Mid-American too, but we have emails, voice messages and texts that go out.
And I know that they have their stations too, so. okay. So that's it. Then consideration to approve promoting Colin Wilson from lineman journeyman to line foreman with an increase of $1.50 an hour effective May 26th of 2020.
So I put the resolution in your packet for where that department pay scale was established for the journeyman, the foreman position, and so that's $1.50, and it's a change in job position, so it's not anything that goes against the CBA and those wage increases there. Colin started here July of 2017. And I believe he came in journeyman in 2019. He's been here he's definitely our most experienced and fully capable of running that through and has been preparing for this job role.
Okay.
Move to approve
Second,
Colin Wilson.
second.
Aye.
Aye.
And then department update, any other electrical? updates?
Just for general updates, they are finishing the removal of overhead lines at the 604 South Second Street and beginning their IUB underground distribution inspection for 2024.
And moving on to the water department. You're waiting on the final results of the water testing. Can we get those back?
Yes, so there should be 2 reports in your packet. They did the first 8 samples that they do normally every month. One of those samples did not pass, and so they have to do a follow-up test where they do, I believe it's 3 repeat samples, and they go for, I believe, 5 service lines in each direction of the service line that had the negative, or that didn't pass the test. So in the retest, everything passed. So we didn't have to do any further assessments.
So it looks like the initial test was on 5/21 and the retest was on 5/23, and there was some suggestions to look at possible causes. Was there any remediation between that period, or they just resampled it and just?
No, so when they resampled it, the 2 days after and it passed, then they didn't have any remediation. Usually if they have a failed test in that retest, then we have to do an assessment and do a remediation plan and do some reporting on it at that point, as far as I understand.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Random contaminant or?
And they don't give you a level, it just says
No.
pass or fail from what I observed in the report.
Yeah, so the report that we received for that positive was for the total coliform bacteria results. That just required the additional sampling. I don't know where that, what the contaminants would be or what would cause that test to not pass. But then when they do the retest so close together and they test the service lines in both directions from that service line and they all pass, then they don't require an assessment.
Is this well, or does this source had a history of that before, prior, or no?
Not that I'm aware, of, no. No, we do the random sampling, and I think we only had one in 2023 that failed as well and passed the retest. We are getting ready to publish our annual, consumer report for the water, and there were 2 failed tests, one that did require an assessment, and I believe that had to do with some testing that actually didn't make it to the facility, or once it got to the facility, it didn't get tested, so it counted as a fail.
Yeah.
And then one that failed and got retested and didn't need an assessment.
Okay.
So we'll continue to watch and.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I can reach out to and ask if they've got some more information they can provide, just to give you guys some further information on that testing.
I was gonna ask that because I know I used to have to deal with stormwater and things like that on the civil side of things, like they would give us that information. Some places did, but we asked for it just to see if there was a pattern or if it was a specific area that it was happening in. Just a little bit more clarification, just if it ever comes up again, I don't think it'd be a bad idea.
Let's see if they've got some further report that they can.
Moving on to consideration to approve a proposal from 120 Water in the amount of $6,500 for assistance with the lead and copper service line inventory and the replacement plan.
So we are in the process of doing a full inventory of our service lines. It's mandated by the state. That initial inventory is going to be due on October 16th. Along with, at this point, the replacement plan is also going to be due with that inventory. We've currently sent out one survey to the community, and we had, I believe we're at about 34% for a response on that, which is really great for one survey. But due to the low staff levels that we have right now and the amount of time that it takes to go out into the field and do these inventory checks on every service line to get a full inventory, we did reach out to some different vendors that offer assistance in gathering that information, and they have different resources and things available to be able to look at records rather than going out in the field and doing that many checks. So we've worked with them quite a bit, and then they help to put the replacement plan in place and with different ways to get the information out to the public, because we have published all of that and have it forward facing to the public to be able to look and see all of our lead service lines in the community. So for just their very basic package to be able to help us with that inventory and the reporting and the consumer education on that program is $6,500 for that first year of services.
So it appears to me that 4,000 is for the software itself for 1 year. And then 2,500 is for the training, I guess, to go along with that.
Yeah, so there's basically a setup.
Okay. And that gets us through the assessment. And at that point, they'll probably solicit us for additional fees for the plan, I guess, if they put together a plan.
So they will help us with putting together a replacement plan. It's going to be due at the same time as the inventory currently, unless they change that legislation, which there is a possibility that they're going to push that out a little bit. But right now we just have to look at the current deadline, which is October 16th. After that, we would have a proposal for an additional year or years to fulfill that replacement plan and actually get all of the service lines replaced. I don't know that we would have a very good idea right now of whether or not we would need those services, because I don't know that we know exactly where the number of service lines we have that are gonna have to be replaced, whether or not we're gonna have funding available from state or federal funding to help replace that, or if that's gonna fall on the residents and some possible assistance from the city if we did that route. So I think until we know a little bit more about what that replacement plan is going to take, I don't know that we have a good indication of whether or not we'll need to have ongoing services.
Yeah.
But I know for this inventory, we've got about 60% of the service lines that we need to go out and get a cost of identification on in just a few months, so.
Out of
All
the
the help we can get.
34% that turn them back in, do we know what percent are lead versus, and how, like, is there any information on that?
We have very little lead. I don't know the number, but I know that we don't have much of that at all. I think we have more, we're seeing more of galvanized, I think, which is something that we would address too. But for the lead, we have very low numbers right now. We've initially been able to get responses on. My guess would be when we're done with the full inventory that we aren't going to see a lot of lead services in our community. There will be
Shouldn't have been.
some, but then we'll be looking at, undoubtedly it will extend to whether or not, we have lead jointed mains or anything like that that also need to be
Right.
deck replacement. So just the beginning of a very long
Yeah,
plan, I'm sure.
I would hope that they would kind of push that back just because there's a lot of places that this is a daunting task for, you know,
And it's hard to get out and identify all of those and then placement. For all of those, it's a big undertaking. You have to be very strategic in how you replace those. Takes a lot of planning, a lot of money.
So this would put us on target then to meet the completion of the plan. The assessment and the plan by October is required.
Yeah, it would certainly help.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be difficult to meet that anyways, and we're not the only community facing that, but within reason of what, we're expected to meet and what we can work with the EPA on. This will certainly be very helpful for us.
Once we're set up then with it, like, we'll have, you know,
They can
Yeah, the
ask for
database
it,
does-
so straight in.
yeah, going forward, it would be easier to generate, you know, any new compliance plans based on this too, right? Like, is there a possibility of collecting any other data off of it that might be needed by the EPA, you know, like for any of this other stuff?
I'm not sure for their particular software and what their service is gonna provide, but we'll essentially take everything, that we use their software for and integrate it into our GIS where we have all of that other information for, our water, sewer, electric, all of
Just
that.
for future running reports on stuff, that it would be easier.
But we will, I mean, yeah, we will own this data that we have and the information that we put together with the help of them will be belong to us after that.
I think it sounds like we should do. We wanna,
Motion that we go ahead and.
Now, second that.
and let's go. Aye.
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 Just as a side note on that too, they did offer the representatives to come and answer any questions or do any presentation if you're interested in seeing that, they would be happy to come to the meeting.
Yeah. Consideration to approve a 3% wage increase for Bryson Steinist, did I pronounce that right? For level 1 water treatment certification. Effective, back to May 3rd of 2024, pending execution of a MOU with the Eldridge Employees Association.
So the 3% incentive increase is what has been traditionally used in the past as a task each water certification level. That is something that has not been ratified with the union for the CBA. So we do want to make sure that we get that in place to make sure that we've got those legal documents lined up to be able to move forward with these increases. I don't anticipate that being an issue. It's been in practice for a little while now. We do want to get that in place before we move forward, but we would make that increase retroactive to the date that he passed his exam once we have that agreement in place. And then they are coming up on negotiations. The contract ends in June of 2025. So then we can write that into there as a more permanent piece of that. Agreement.
So as it sits right now, does this align with the CDA? Or is what you're saying is we have to amend the CDA for this increase?
Yep, so right now, these increases for the certifications are not part of the CBA and there is no agreement. The CBA only outlines the general wage increase and that's the only increase that's agreed to between the union and management. That being said, they have been offering the incentives for the certifications. There was just never the documentation in place that needed to be able to back up both sides of that agreement. So we do want to get that in place just to ratify all of the increases that took place before, and then anything going forward would be in agreement with that CBA. We don't anticipate there will be any issues with that, but we just want to make sure we get that cleaned up a little bit.
Manager, can I speak for just something here? Traditionally on collective bargaining, the city was represented by the committee. And the city administrator. So they were negotiating the union, the employer side to the combined public works up to the utility. And so they collective bargaining was always negotiated. And went back once it did that, the tentative settlement, back to city council approval. Came here for approval also too, so they're doing any changing in it. The personnel committee is going to be looking at also, according to our tradition.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that it's where we're going. It's in its fiduciary exam.
Yep, so any MOU or side letter would have to be signed by all of the appropriate parties. So usually it would be myself and someone from the city council, someone from the utility board, and then the representative from the union.
So I guess without the CBA representation on this, is it maybe premature to vote for the increase this time?
Well, so on your next agenda, we're gonna have the fiscal year 25 wage resolution. The simplest way to get all of this accounted for and in place would be to get that MOU in place prior to that resolution, so we can calculate all of the wages properly. And we don't anticipate they're gonna have any issue with that. So with the approval tonight, then if we can get that MOU drafted and signed, we don't have to get it in front of you guys again before we can to get it for approval. So this is approving as long as the union and the management can get that MOU together and sign it, that we can go ahead and.
And that's not a common practice with CBAs, you know, like Nevada said earlier, like you do have the set rates, but you can't impose things like that. You know, incentives, increases, and then
Well, I guess what I'm just concerned about is, are we gonna be at risk if for some reason the CBA representative says, well, no, I'm not in agreement with this, or I'm not aligned with it, but yet we've voted to make the wage increase, or
Is it pending?
is there a risk or?
Yeah.
It's pending though,
Yeah, so
the MOU agreement. So if we vote for it, in my opinion, if it doesn't go through, if all parties don't agree to it, then it's tabled until contract negotiations in 2025.
yep.
Okay,
So your board is basically stating that you approve the 3% increase once that agreement is in place, but until that agreement is in place, it does not have your.
understood.
That'd be fine. All right.
I put in a motion to approve.
Second.
And voice vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Uh,
Excellent. Consideration to approve request from Eldridge North Chamber of Commerce to access the water hydrant during the 2024 Summerfest for the Absolute Science event. I don't know what that is, just somebody might enlighten the board.
So each year for Summerfest, the city partners in a variety of ways with the chamber to make these events happen. Most years, I would say that at least one of the activities needs some sort of water supply. And for this one, they need to be able to hook up to the hydrant and for it They do put a meter on it, so that they can track the amount of water that's used so that it's not being read as lost water, so that we can account for it, but they don't, then typically charge for it. It's not a large amount of water consumption, but it's to be able to, some sort of a foam party part of it.
I don't know,
Not
reach out
exactly
or-
what to expect from it, but it's,
So then does, one of the utility workers, somebody monitors that or somebody from the fire department?
the fire department will, with the approval of the board for that water consumption, and then the, utility crew will help put the meter on the hydrant and track that water usage.
Runners always like to run through the spray down area.
Yes.
Cool down after the race.
Yeah.
So not everybody does, but some.
We used to do water balloon or water fights, you know, like firemen, water
Yeah,
fights
they
and
had
stuff.
there years ago.
Yeah.
And you want to put it back and forth.
Yeah, that'll be
Or BP can bring that back.
You know.
Start.
It is, it was fun.
I know they got a petting zoo, so there was some water usage for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some good events, so.
Motion to approve.
Alright,
Second,
and voice votes,
Aye.
I,
alright. And any other department update on,
For the water department, no main breaks, reported from the last meeting up until tonight. The water plant office is currently under construction with the remodel that was approved. High service number 4 and well number 3 are getting installed this week. So I did reach out to our water department operator and schedule that reinstallation. So that's good because we're getting to that time of the year where water consumption is high. The SCADA is being looked at for updating, and we may be looking at newer PCs to be reviewed as well so that they can support an upgrade to the SCADA system, which is going to provide some more security and allow remote access without going out onto the internet and opening up to that security risk. So,
type stuff?
well, yeah,
And Mike, and you might know this still, but is it still an option when you're using those SCADA programs? Some of the IT companies, software companies are getting this for like, how long is this computer system compatible with, you know, their programs, updates? Historically, when I've done it,
yeah,
like,
we
they
should be
ran
different
for a
here, so,
year, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
if we've got, you know, equipment that's within the last 10, 15 years, then, we should be good. And it's basically just setting up, you know, the VPN and the security measures to, you know, ensure there's no outside influence and
so they're running on Windows 7 on the PCs down there. So we
That's
did not upgrade
yeah.
to be able to
Okay.
support the SCADA. So
Yeah.
that's.
We're at like.
it's definitely time for an upgrade. And the SCADA upgrade is going to be considerable cost. We'll get some proposals on that. We have JB with Tri-City who does a lot of the work down there. And the sewer plan as well. So he's taking a look at that to see exactly what it is that we need. But regardless of the SCADA upgrade, we would have to upgrade the PCs as well.
Well, I was looking over the Clean Water Act and I read the whole thing, which is not very interesting if you're not into this, but, it is, we definitely need to make sure that we are up to date on some stuff going forward and making sure that we are securing everything. So I think that's a definite needed.
Yeah, and I agree. And then even on the electric side, you know, we probably need to look at that and make sure we're in SIP compliance, you know, for NERC and FERC requirements is, we do our distribution throughout the city. So there may be some additional training for employees to understand what goes along with having access to SCADA and operational controls.
Yeah, just a little education to make sure that nobody makes any errors going forward.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just, it's online training, you know, I've had to go through it and others, you know, so it's not. But again, it gets us in compliance if, you know, we are subject to any regulation on that.
No, I think it's a necessary thing. All right, anybody have anything else?
The high service pump number 4, is there any constraints with that work currently, or is that going smoothly?
It's going smoothly. They haven't run into any issues with it yet. I know this is phase two of will eventually be 4 phases of doing one well and one pump a year. It doesn't seem that there's gonna be anything out of the routine from what they normally do to service. There's a little bit of rebuilding, I think, on the well. And that is basically took them out, cleaned them, there was any more repairs and installation again.
Good.
All right. Are you adjourned?
Move to adjourn.
I have one more thing.
Oh, sorry, okay.
I want to touch base again on inventory.
Yes,
What can we do? We'd like to see this like to move forward and get inventory. I know we're all more than welcome to get in there. We'd also like to see like where we're keeping this. You know, years ago they were doing this, but like to be able to reconcile what we're buying, purchasing, we need to have an objective number going into this and like what we have.
Yep.
You know, what costs can we save to the public, community, et cetera, which is where we're at.
so, we are just having that together for you. We did, I believe that we have all of the documents and files and recovered. And so we're going through those and trying to piece them together because some of them were on our server from previous administration. And then we did recover the other files. And so I'm loading those into the server right now. And then I think there were probably some scattered between different computers and employees that were handling different jobs. So we have all of our computers on the network now and so we can track those and user accounts set up with them so we can get everybody on the same file share and get all the files into one central location. So I'm working with the employees and then still going through the files that we just recently recovered to figure out where all that's at. And then it's just a matter of getting it put together for you guys into one document to make sure that it's.
And then once we have this, we're satisfied with the number where it's at, you know, checked on this, everything's in place. Is that something, city council is already working on, like a plan moving forward on how this will be done with our employees, you know, the public works, or excuse me, water, electric managers?
As far as inventory.
Yes.
There, we can put something in place for a policy or plan. There hasn't been a lot of talk of that yet. That's probably something that I think you guys will work on with your utility manager or your electric or water superintendent, whichever direction you go, with that to determine how you want that inventory kept. It looks like we have a pretty solid detailed tracking of inventory. Again, I haven't been able to look through it. We're still putting it together, but I think they've got a pretty solid process in place right now. They work closely with the staff up here as well, the assistant city administrator and the inspector on orders and what's coming in and going out. So we should have somewhat of a process in place already, and I think that we can work on putting policies and procedures and like a monthly report or something so that the board has access to that information as well.
It would be good to understand what our spares are and availability and,
Absolutely.
and are there any critical items now that we need that we don't have?
None that I'm aware of. And have some conversation with Colin on that. They haven't expressed that we are, well, I don't think that we're having any trouble getting any supplies now like we were a couple of years ago. Well, just to make sure.
Well, if you get that list put together, then you can determine the needs of how often you need to do an inventory versus keep track of it in the system. And then still keep in mind, there's certain transformers and stuff that they're still 12 months out. And so if you start getting a list of those and you know that you're traditionally using this X, Y, and Z, and you know it's 12 months, then you can make sure you're letting builders and contractors know, you know, when they look at and review site plans.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise because there was a time it was 24 months, you know, during COVID.
Yeah.
There are some municipalities that are struggling. I mean, we see the messages come out for mutual aid from other municipalities on, labor, having enough staff, but also having the equipment that they need, so. We haven't had to send that message out yet, so I think we're in pretty good shape, but, you know, we'll have more insight on that as to what types of equipment and that we are still having delays or having any trouble getting.
Be a good idea to have all that information, and that way we're not wasting money and time and efforts.
We understand where we stand and
Yeah.
if there is any needs or then we can address it.
And has there been any further discussion on security, like maybe getting cameras up in these areas?
We met with, the guy who put the temporary camera up at the water treatment plant. He is currently putting a proposal together based on the locations and then the cameras that, we told him we would need at each facility. And some of the facilities that already have cameras are going in on that proposal to just to upgrade and get everybody on the same system. And it's gonna depend a little bit on what, that proposal comes in at. I know we have at least one other vendor who wants to provide a proposal as well, but we are working on kind of figuring out, what those locations are gonna be, so.
So I think there's
identifying those with the
something
staff.
in the Clean Water Act that we need to have that in there as well. I
Yeah.
don't know. So,
And we just leave that one in place until,
yeah,
until we get something permanent, whatever that is gonna be, but we do have that one, it's working very well. It's set up to alert us from certain times, if there's anything that would trigger that alert, then it goes to the water treatment plant operator as well as administration. So it's been working great. It would be nice to have those in place.
And typically, how many quotes do you get for items like this?
We like to get 3. It's a little bit different. So there's a certain threshold that you have to look at for doing an actual formal bid. But we're also looking at services. They aren't gonna be apples to apples from one vendor to the next because they offer different options. I know the one that we're looking at right now, above and beyond the security cameras, they also offer, the key fobs to get into the door where you can use fingerprinting, or it could go as far as identifying a face as you walk up to the door and then it just opens it for you. I don't know.
Did you
quite at that
send
level, but it's got the possibility.
her that, the name I sent you?
no, I didn't yet.
I can't remember if I sent it to Craig.
I don't know. I know that we had talked about it briefly, but like it, you know, I was waiting to see.
I mean, most of those type of companies do offer like key fobs with them because a lot of it goes hand in hand with the security system.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do everything at once. As long as you buy the right system, you can.
Then you
a la carte
can
it.
add.
So I've got the cameras. I haven't added the key fobs yet, but I will. I'll do that.
So you can build on top of the
Yeah.
system. that you
Yes.
And then you can actually tie it into security systems, alarms. There's-
Because I think with that Clean Water Act, there's some things in there. And, you know, that you do need to have it be secure, and I don't want to find an audit from anybody, you know, that we're not doing our part.
Yeah.
So,
I think from a security camera and security entrance standpoint, but also from issues and procedures internally, things that we just need to make sure that we have updated and we've got policies in place and training the employees on those and using those policies. It'd be a little bit of a change to get used to, but
we have to
we'll
do
get
it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
These
I
are
mean, it's-
minor type of changes
Yeah.
too, like even just like with the security and key fobs and. I mean, you guys, we've all used in here, the key fobs, but it's, you know, if you've got somebody leaving. You know, an exiting employee,
Yeah.
et cetera. I mean, it's just easy to control that or even. So we used to do a lot
Right.
for, we see inventory missing, okay, well. XYZ's walked in here 4 times, that's the only person that's been, you know, so it's little things like that and.
So we are definitely looking at doing the key fobs, because we do have the keypad system here, but that doesn't give us any log or any history of, who in,
Who access?
yeah, and we know that, there's several departments or, employee groups or even elected officials, that will share a code to be able to access, which hasn't been a problem, but, I mean, we do need to have more secure entrances. That's just the trend, and that's the way things are going. We need to secure the facilities, especially when we share City Hall with PD. And then we've got, our sewer plant does have cameras down there, but they want to upgrade to whatever system we're gonna be using. But our water treatment plant as well, so that we're compliant with the regulations and.
I think that's, so we'll just wait on that until we get a little bit more information and, we'll focus and go from there. So
We will bring those proposals forward. And what we asked for was just kind of a base proposal for the security cameras, at the number of locations that they have to have.
us, or how does it work?
Yeah, that one, it'll probably be a little bit, different breakdown. Sometimes we just go for a percentage when they're just,
Standard.
general bills. Well, we'll have different facilities, that are built to different departments.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to work that breakdown. The police department will have some, the sewer plant will have some, and they've got their own fund lines. So we'll break all of that down, but we did also ask for add-on options too, so that you guys do have something comparable between the quotes, but then you can also decide, some of those companies are gonna offer things that the other companies can't, and so you can take a look at those services and see what makes the most sense for each facility moving forward.
And then. Okay. All right. Now are we ready to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Where's that gavel?
Here, I got
Check this on you.
Oh, there's more
This
check.
is top one, she stamped, she signed on the wrong line.